Dawn FM by The Weeknd. This album came out this year in 2022 and is a total of 16 songs. Now, yes, 4 of those songs are interludes, and I'll get on those later. I'll get on the tracks later, but I kind of want to talk about this album. Now, when I first listened to this album, when it came out, I didn't like it. I actually turned it off because I was like, I don't like it. It was really the first song, Gasoline, I couldn't get past. And so I was like, this isn't that good. I'm going to turn it off. Then the next day, I decided to, you know what? I'm going to give it another listen. Why not? I should give it a fair chance. And I listened to it, and the album's great. The album's really good. Now, one little thing, hold on. I actually have the Dawn FM vinyl right here. Wow. You can barely see it because the sun out of the window right there is blocking it. And this is like really dark gray. So, but yeah. The Dawn FM vinyl. I just wanted to say that. I don't know if you guys could hear me, since I was holding the mic away. Also, the mic is facing correctly, so we're not gonna have a problem like we did with Igor. I'm not sick. I might cough every once in a while or sound like I'm gonna cough, but just ignore that, okay? But now let's just get back to Dawn FM. So this album comes right after After Hours, which a lot of people say is perfect. A perfect 10. It's amazing, and I do think the After Hours is The Weeknd's best album, but it is not my favorite. Personally, Dawn FM is my favorite Weeknd album, and I showed you the vinyl. I really like this album. I do. I was stupid for giving up on it the first time I listened to it, but every time I listen to it again, I liked it more. Now, I will say, I don't like some of the songs, admittedly. There are 12 songs. I know I said 16. There's 4 interludes, but there's 12 songs on this album, and there's about 2 or 3 that I wouldn't listen to again. The rest of them I would listen to again, but sometimes I might skip them. Of course, Starry Eyes and Listen Zero are my favorite songs on this album. I think they're both 10 out of 10. Now, my least favorite songs on this album is probably Don't Break My Heart and How Do I Make You Love Me. I don't know, just something about them. It's not really for me. Like, I'll listen to it, but if it comes on, I probably will skip it. Now, this album has features from Tyler, the Creator, and Lil Wayne, and a narration by Jim Carrey, the actor. And I know, it was crazy. When I first listened to it, since I don't really stay up to date with a bunch of, like, Weeknd stuff, so I didn't know, like, if this was knowledge before the album came out. I didn't know, and so I was surprised to click on, whatever, Out of Time, I think was the first one, with Jim Carrey on it. And he's like, don't you dare touch that dial. You're listening to Dawn FM and blah, blah, blah. But I think it surprisingly works really well. Now, I will say the interlude with Quincy Jones, A Tale by Quincy, is completely useless. I don't think it matches this album at all. It's just weird to have a narration by someone else when the whole album is being narrated by Jim Carrey. So I think it was weird. I think it would fit more if it had more of like the Dawn FM-esque like beat to it. Not really a beat, but like a background noise to it when it's kind of empty. And I think it also would have been better if it was narrated by Jim Carrey. Now, since we're on the topic of features, I think the Lil Wayne feature is great. I think the Lil Wayne and The Weeknd mix very well, especially on I Heard You're Married. I think The Weeknd gives that little like funkiness to it, which is weird. I didn't expect it, but it was great. I like that song. And the Tyler, the Creator feature, I don't like. I will say, I'm a fan of Tyler. I like the song, but I do think Tyler ruins that song. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh, here we go again. And then and the beat kind of pauses for a little bit, and I'm like, oh, wait, Tyler's coming on. And like, I think Tyler's verse is fine. It's not bad, but I do think it kind of ruins the song, and the song would be better without him on it. Now, this album kind of has a weird vibe to it. I don't know why, but the really main thing when I try to describe this album, it's kind of like 80s, but it also sounds a little futuristic. Like it was made in the 80s, meant to be like a futuristic album. I don't know. If that makes sense to any of you, then that's great, but that's like the only thing that comes to my mind when I try to, articulate what this album kind of sounds like to me. Now, one thing I will say is that the tracks all flow perfectly into each other. Now, I listened to this again recently for the first time in a while, and I was like, wow. Like, some of these songs, now I might get these wrong. I have a list of the tracks, but I don't really remember which ones flow. But I know they're like Out of Time to Here We Go Again to Best Friends to Is There Someone Else to the do 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 do. Is there, you all know it's like very, it's a sound on TikTok. Hey, you know what I'm talking about. But I think the tracks just flow perfectly into each other, and it's not like a weird thing where if you listen to them by themselves it wouldn't really work, like it would sound weird. It doesn't, because it sounds fine. But when you listen to this the whole album, the transitions from each song are amazing, and they're all like, sometimes I'm listening to it and like it's the transition goes to another song and I'm like, huh, this song is really long, but I'm like, oh wait, this is actually 2 songs. Oh my god, I didn't even know. Also, one last thing before I move on from the tracks, I think the Jim Carrey feature on Out of Time sucks. That's just me. I listen to Out of Time a lot, and I always skip that part because I'm like, it kind of ruins it. When you listen to it with the album, it's fine, but when you listen to it by yourself, it doesn't really work. So I'm kind of glad that Out of Time is really the only song with Jim Carrey on it. But of course, the production on this album is great. Now, I don't think it's his best production work. Obviously, After Hours, I think, is his best produced album. But also, the lyricism on this album is also great. A lot of the songs are very sad and have a lot of hidden meanings. But I think he does a good way of, like, hiding it so you wouldn't really know unless you read the lyrics, because the beats are all upbeat, especially, like, Less Than Zero. How he really talks about how he's not good enough for anyone. But the beat is like, woo, oh my god, I'm gonna dance to this song, you know? That's kind of what I feel like. I don't know, the lyrics are great. You really won't understand them unless you read them, not listen to them, because I think the beat kind of like, it's very, it contradicts each other. This happens a lot with a lot of sad music. There's a lot of like very sad lyrics, but a beat is like, oh my god, the beat's great. It's like very happy and upbeat, like Hey Ya by Outkast, you know? And that happens a lot on this album. And I think that also happens a lot with a lot of the Weeknd songs. This album also follows the story of After Hours. It goes from After Hours to Dawn FM, and the next album might even continue it. And I think it's great. There's like music videos with the storyline and all of that stuff. It's great. I think The Weeknd is a very smart man when he knows how to make a story with music and videos and all that stuff. And so I think it has a great story to it. While the songs themselves, listening to them in order, doesn't carry as much of a story as, you know, Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick, you know? But I think in themselves and in like the wider theme, it does kind of fit well. While they're not really connected as much, they all fit like loosely together when they all share a general theme. But anyway, that's enough of me ranting about this album. Let's get on to the review. I'm going to give Dawn FM by The Weeknd an 8 out of 10. Now, I know there are some songs on this album that I really don't like, but there are also some songs that I love on this album. And I think, whenever I think of a rating, you know, sometimes I'm thinking about it like, ooh, Yeezus, a 6 out of 10, you're not going to change my mind. I'm like, oh, you know, I could give Yeezus a 7. You know, it kind of fits that, but I think a 6 is more appropriate. And, you know, Igor with a 9 and other albums. I think Dawn FM is a perfect 8 out of 10. Now, I think just, like, my thought process is a little weird, admittedly, but I think when you think of 8 out of 10, you're going to think of Dawn FM. It's not his best. It is my favorite, but it is also really good. Now, there are obviously things that could be better about this album. It's not like a perfect thing. It's not a 9. It's an 8. It's a perfect 8. I think 8 fits this greatly. So, if you disagree, then screw you. But I know some people don't like this album. If you don't, just give it another listen. Just give it a try. It's great. It's fun. It's a good vibe. It's only like, it's not that long. It's like 40 minutes, maybe like 50 minutes. I don't really remember the runtime. But yeah, The Weeknd, Dawn FM, an 8 out of 10. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Next week, we'll be back. I don't know what I'm going to review then, and if I did, I wouldn't say it. But yeah, that's it. Remember to put what album you want me to review in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe, go subscribe to my second channel, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.